Hello, my name is Ricky Brown, and my presentation today is all about wakeboarding. Wakeboarding is one of my favorite sports to participate in during the summer. Take a close look at the far right side of the picture. You can see someone wakeboarding. I am going to share with you the basics of wakeboarding, which includes the equipment needed, how to stand up, and what jumping the wake looks like. Before we begin, I would like you to take a minute to brainstorm what you know about wakeboarding. You may know nothing at all, or maybe you've been wakeboarding before and know all about it. Just take some time to write down your initial thoughts. Maybe some of you are wondering, what exactly is wakeboarding? Maybe you've never even heard of it. Well, wakeboarding is a water sport in which your feet are stationary in boots that are strapped to a board, and as you hold onto a rope, a boat pulls you along. And from there, many tricks can be performed. To understand how wakeboarding got its name, picture this. As a boat begins to move and reaches a certain speed, the water behind the boat almost creates a V as if you were looking at it from inside the boat. The water on the sides of this V shape are steep and are used to launch over to perform tricks. I'll show you this in more detail later in the presentation. Now I'm going to talk about the basic equipment you need for wakeboarding. First, you're going to need a boat, preferably a boat that is made for water sports. The boat in this picture is a Super Air Nautique. The difference between wakeboarding boats and any other boat is that wakeboarding boats create a bigger wake to jump over. They create that bigger and steeper V shape of the water. You're also going to need a life jacket. It's a law that you must wear a life jacket while participating in any water sport. Make sure your life jacket fits you properly and can hold you above the water prior to trying to wakeboard. So in order to wakeboard, I bet you could have guessed it, you need a wakeboard. The picture above is my personal board. Wakeboards come in all different sizes based on your riding style and weight. On the top of the board you can see the boots in which your feet will be strapped into. You can adjust the width of your stance with screws by moving them closer or further apart based on your preference. On the reverse side of the board there are small fins to help guide the board in the water. You have a choice of either placing your left foot forward or your right foot forward, and this is all based off of your preference again. The last piece of equipment I would like to show you is the rope. The rope is specifically made for wakeboarding. On one side of the rope there are several loops in which you can choose what you would like your rope distance to be. Typically, a beginner rider's rope is shorter than a more advanced rider. Once you choose the length of the rope you like, then you take the loop and place it on a pylon located inside the boat. The other end of the rope is the handle that the wakeboarder holds onto. Now I want to get into very simple steps of how to get up on a wakeboard. Some find this easier to do than others, but there's definitely a technique to it. Once you're in the water with your board strapped to you and you're holding onto the rope, the driver can then begin to slowly move. Once the rope is tight and stretched, the wakeboarder will assume the position in this photo. The board should be somewhat out of the water, the rider's knees should be bent at about a 90-degree angle, and the rope should be held by the rider's hips. Then, as the driver begins to accelerate and the rope starts to pull the wakeboarder out of the water, as this is happening, the rider should have his or her weight mostly on their back foot. As this happens, the rider's knees should still be bent, but not quite as much as when he or she started. The rope will move from the rider's hips to a position slightly in front of his or her chest. This part is the hardest part because as the boat accelerates, the rider has to make sure to hold on to the rope so it's not yanked out of his or her hands. Then, once the rider is up, the fun can begin. Notice the V shape that the boat is creating. When the rider gets up, he or she is in the middle of the V shape. In order to move from one side to the other, the rider must put weight on his or her toes to go in the direction he or she is facing. Or the rider must put weight on his or her heels in order to go in the direction his or her back is facing. By doing this, the rider will move over the wake. Once outside of the wake, the rider can then move back towards the wake, bend his or her knees, and launch over the wake and land over on the other side of the wake. Now that I talked to you about the equipment needed to wakeboard, how to get up on a board, and how to move on a wakeboard, I would like for you to have a clear understanding of exactly what wakeboarding is. Check out this video of a rider jumping the wake in slow motion. He leans on his heels to cut into the wake. As he jumps over the wake, he comes down and lands on the other side of the wake. Now I'd like you to complete a think, pair, share activity where I want you to write down a few things you learned and compare them with your neighbors. Thank you for your time.